Welcome. My name is Richard Fisher. I'm the publisher of Inside Unmanned Systems, Inside GNSS, and Inside Autonomous Vehicles. We are Autonomous Media. We are live broadcasting to you from downtown Denver in Colorado at the Xponential 2023. And as is the case with most Xponentials, we are kicking off our live stream series with a subject matter expert that I've known for some time, Franck Boynton. Franck Boynton is the Vice President and Chief Technology Officer of NavTechGPS, based in the DC area, and he's here to preview a very important discussion he's going to be delivering to this venue in just within the hour. So Franck, welcome so much. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you, Richard. I'm glad we kind of made this a tradition to kick this whole live broadcast off with NavTechGPS. Always enjoyable, always fun. So always like talking to you.
Yeah.
Always get the good questions.
Yeah, the good questions,
yes.
And the better answers, actually. So, you know, one of the kind of hardcore big concerns in the world of PNT and autonomous operations, whether it's in the air or on the ground or at sea, is jamming, and it is the integrity of GNSS signals, and both malicious, intentional and unintentional jamming. I know that because I read about it in Inside GNSS cover feature we did on jamming. We then did a issue on urban air mobility. Obviously, when you're flying beyond visual line of sight, big cover feature in Inside Unmanned Systems, and as a result of that, being jammed is really inconvenient when you can't see your drone.
It really is, and it leads to more than inconvenience. Absolutely.
So, so you are, again, you were asked to speak here for the second year. I mean, I think this is your fifth or sixth time.
Oh,
here.
At least, yes.
At least, yeah.
At least.
So, tell us, give us a couple of points about your discussion, your talk on jamming and how to identify it, how to prevent it, and what people need to understand about the potentially nefarious and very serious consequences of jamming.
Sure. So the title of the talk, I'm going to cheat a little bit here because it changes every year. It's Real World GNSS Protection from Start to Finish. And that's going to be at the Solutions Theater right behind us at booth 5020.
Franck, what time does that talk begin?
That starts at 11:30.
11:30
today.
Okay,
yes,
so,
exactly. So
at 11:30, be at 5020.
Be there.
And yeah, give us a couple of highlights. Give
Sure.
us a bit of a preview.
So some of the keys in that title are protection from start to finish, where in the past we've had some protection from jamming signals, and now we have a little bit more this year. So now we have some antennas that are very good for this. So we're not only able to get rid of some out-of-band jamming, harmonics, and we are also looking a little bit higher above the horizon to avoid some of the jammers from the ground, especially good if you're on a roof doing a timing application, or you're in an aircraft, a drone flying. A lot of the signals jamming come from underneath, so this will help prevent that, as well as some jamming prevention in-band as well. So we are actually able to do something now pretty well before it gets to your GPS receiver. And we even have a piece in the middle of there as well that will deal with some jamming effects, and then you can bring it into your GPS receiver, hopefully unscathed. So that is the key part of that, that we kind of have a start to finish, real world, real time solution to help mitigate jamming.
And Franck, and coming from the kind of hardcore positioning, navigation, timing community, right? That's where we know each other for inside GNSS land for 20 years.
Yes.
I think there's a lot of misunderstanding or lack of knowledge, very frankly, particularly in this market, and particularly when we're seeing the operation of autonomous vehicles beyond line of sight, and we always use a descriptor in this world as the safe operation, and that qualifier is really key. And I would argue that obviously identifying sources of jamming and mitigating jamming really is kind of key to making sure you're operating in a safe manner. And to that end, are you seeing, what is the nature of these solutions? Are these, in the past we've had very large kind of SERPA antennas that would mitigate jamming effects. There's been, depending on how you want to configure your antenna, you can do a lot of things to mitigate the potential for jamming. But now are we seeing more and more of these solutions kind of, the form factor is evolving? Are we seeing smaller packages? Are we seeing lighter weight, lower power, the standard stop, qualities that enable the deployment of an anti-jam or AJ in a place that you haven't been able to do it before?
Sure,
Can you talk a little bit about that?
Absolutely. So everything is getting smaller, lighter, faster, cheaper, or less expensive, I should say. And we're getting to the point where we're getting smaller and smaller antennas to start with. I was at a dealer conference yesterday with Talisman, and they are putting out newer antennas that have shrunk by 9 millimeters. And someone kind of commented, well, it's only 9 millimeters, but 9 millimeters is a lot when you're on the outside of an aircraft. Less drag. So it really does make a difference, and they continue to shrink those components. And then the other component between there is about the size of a business card, and that's where we really get into the electronics portion of trying to get rid of these jamming sources. So the antenna really is a physical portion of it. So you're doing things to the antenna to physically reject these signals. You can't deny the signals, of course, because then you just don't get them at all, and it doesn't work at all. So what we're trying to do is use multi-antenna systems. That's what goes into here, so you can null out jammers from one place to the other, know where to look, where not to look, and then there's further processing inside of those boards. And that can be used with your existing system. So if you have a GNSS receiver already on board, you can just add this to that very successfully.
Plug and play. Open architecture.
Yep, it is.
Modular.
Yes, and we've heard about these things in the past, and they kind of worked. And but these are, more focused on actually processing the signal well before it gets into your receiver. And then we get into the receiver end, where there are GNSS receivers today that have a lot of AJ built into them. So that's adjustable manually, or you can set them into automatic mode. So kind of putting all of these together, really makes your system more robust and less susceptible to jamming and interference.
Yeah, I'd encourage people out there to read Inside GNSS and Inside Unmanned Systems, and pay particular attention to some of those advertisers in there who actually are delivering some pretty amazing AJ capabilities kind of on board. And the other thing, in the capabilities are getting more exotic, more effective. The size is getting smaller. The power is getting lower, and it's not just the 9 millimeters in terms of adding weight to your aircraft or your UAS platform. It's also the aerodynamic, not just the aerodynamic impact, but it's also the location at which you can place the antenna. That is a big problem on adding antennas to aircraft frequently. So the smaller it is, the more options engineers have to kind of mitigate that really profound risk.
And you have a nice example right behind us with your photograph, and you can see there's not a lot of place to put antennas and things, so
exactly,
smaller the better. We'll fight for every millimeter we can get.
There it is. So again, Frank, your talk, the title of which is?
Again, that is Real World GNSS Protection from Start to Finish.
Protection. It's all about protection, protecting PNT. Go see Frank at 11:30. Frank, it's always a pleasure. Appreciate your time today.
Thanks for having me on. Thanks for doing what you guys do and keeping us up to date.
Thanks, Frank.
All right.